question discussion, right? So actually, coming Friday also we have holiday, so we will not have much time to cover the course. Still, I think we are very far behind the schedule. So what I'll do, I'll uh, put all the answer of the questions, and I'll send you as a material in the Google Class Meet. Okay. So in the Google class, I'll post the answer of the question number 2 and 3, I think. Okay, so from there you can see this is nothing difficult or conceptual questions which need discussion or doubt clearing. Once you see, then I think you can understand what are the things you have to do. Okay, so that I'll do. I'll
Sir,
post the question.
sir, but can you please explain that second question?
Okay, second question was from your last unit. Okay.
Van der Waals equation to real form, real coefficient.
Yeah, so that actually for that you need to expand the expression using binomial theorem. Binomial expansion you need to do. From the binomial expansion, when do and you check each coefficient of p and v, okay, then you can find out that what is a and what is b like this. Okay, so that is what the question about actually. You have to do binomial expansion of that expression. 2-3 line of work, but for that actually you need to bit understand or to think how to do that. Okay.
Is there any specific condition to apply binomial expansion, sir?
No, the whatever you have to just expand that. Okay, and you can go up to 3-4 order, that enough. But whatever it's given, only you can find out itself in the first or second order expansion. Okay. Okay. So anything anybody want to ask? Okay. So if not, then we'll
If
start.
possible, now can you please explain that
Which one?
expansion?
Expansion. I will post the answer. Okay. I'll uh,
Okay, sir.
I'll
Okay,
post
okay.
the answer in Google Class. Okay. From there you can see what is the answer, how it is done, everything in details. Answer in details. Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Huh.
Thank you.
Okay. So let me now start. Okay. So I think you can see the slides. So far we have already discussed heat engine, Carnot cycle, all these things we have discussed. And last time we also saw that to have a 100% efficient Carnot engine, you need a infinite heat source or absolute zero sink. Okay. Either the heat source should be at a very infinite temperature, or if you have a cold reservoir or the sink at the absolute zero, then you can achieve 100% efficient engine. So that is what our understanding from the Carnot cycle and Carnot engine. So today I'll go more about the second law of thermodynamics, which is basically the building blocks, or you can say the basic principles about the second law of thermodynamics. Okay, so that's what we are going to discuss today. And we already have discussed that what is heat engine, right? A heat engine is basically it works in between two reservoirs or two sources, heat sources. One should be at higher temperature and another should be at lower temperature. Okay, and what we'll do, the heat engine will do some work by extracting some temperature from the hot reservoir or the or the source where the temperature is high, and it will do some work, and by rejecting some small amount of heat or temperature to the sink or the reservoir which is at low temperature. Okay, and if this is the not the condition, then you cannot do anything. Okay, heat engine cannot do any work if you don't follow this cycle or this type of concept. Okay, and this is basically kind of a negative statement. What it is said that no heat engine can work. Okay, or no heat engine can convert the heat, whatever the heat you have extracted from the heat reservoir, to work without rejecting anything to the cold reservoir or the sink. Okay, so this actually kind of a negative statement. Okay, which was never discussed in the first law of thermodynamics. First law of thermodynamics tells that there is some equivalence of heat and work. If you supply heat, then you can do some work, but it never tells about how much you can do the work, or is it possible to have 100% efficient energy, efficient heat engine. That was not mentioned in the first law of thermodynamics, but in second law of thermodynamics, we when this Kelvin, Planck, Clausius, all these people, when they developed the theory, they did some experiment as well as thought experiment as well as experiment. Okay, physical experiment as well as thought experiment, and studied this thermodynamics part. They understood that there you cannot do any work, okay, without rejecting any heat to the cold reservoir or the sink. So this second law is basically a part of, or you can say it is a basically negative statement, okay, which was formulated first by Kelvin, and later on it was then further this concept was developed by Planck, okay, and now whatever we know, the combined statement is known as Kelvin-Planck statement, and that statement is for second law of thermodynamics, okay, and this is about the on top of the first law of thermodynamics. This is regarding the second law of thermodynamics, which tells you some further concepts, which basically tells that it is impossible to construct an engine that operating in a cycle will produce no effect other than the extraction of heat from a reservoir and performance and equivalent amount of work. Okay. So if you read this statement, I think you can understand. But still, let me explain. So what it is saying, you cannot have any engine in real world which can operate in a cycle. Okay, and there will be no effect. Let's say, just you can extract the heat and do some work without any third effect or without any effect. Okay, if you that means this is a negative kind of statement. Okay, negative statement. If you just look at the positive aspect of this statement, what it is saying that if you want to do some work, then you have to extract the heat from the hot reservoir, which is at higher temperature, and then you have to reject some heat to the cold reservoir, which is at a low temperature. Okay, so this is what the very simple way you can understand what is the Kelvin-Planck statement says. And this statement in a very philosophical way, you can write like this, that you cannot construct an engine which can operate in a cycle, and it will not show any effect without where you can just extract the heat and do some work. Okay, that means 100% efficient, 100% efficient engine, right? So you are just extracting heat and doing work. That means whatever the heat you are extracting, you are doing some work, and then you return back to the original position because it is cyclic. So again, you will hit some work, heat. Again, you extract from heat and convert work. And if you continue this, it is a perpetual motion, right? You will extract heat from a source and will do work. Then again, you go back to the heat source, extract the heat, and convert everything into work. So this is a perpetual thing, which is impossible actually. Even whatever you want to do some work, you cannot convert whole of the heat into work. At least you need to reject some amount of heat to the sink. Then only your heat engine will work in a cyclic manner. Okay, and we have seen this is not the any abstract statement or any imaginary statement. In real world, wherever we see, uh, whatever amount of energy we put to any system, we cannot convert into everything into a work or anything. Okay, we cannot convert the electrical energy to mechanical energy 100%. There will be some loss. There will be some loss due to transfer of the electrical energy due to resistance in the copper wire or aluminum wire, whatever material you are using. And there will be some friction because of the mechanical machine or some other effect like heat formation in the machine, which will further reduce your efficiency. Everything, magnetic energy also. When any magnetic energy you want to use to drive a motor, there also you will lose some energy due to heat. Okay, and you know sun. If you use sunlight for the solar cell are very what can they do? Whatever the amount of heat you are extracting from the solar cell, they will convert part of that energy, not 100%. So in real world, so far we don't have any engine which can work 100% efficient in 100% efficiency. Okay, so this is what it is saying. And this is what about our perpetual machine, what we can say that suppose I'll put a machine or I'll design a machine which is working in perpetual motion where it can extract any heat from the surrounding or from the any heat source. So here I have, let's say, two example for very simple in context to our thermodynamics discussion. Let I have a heat engine, and we know our air is little bit hot. Okay, it has some temperature. So my heat engine can it extract the heat from the air and convert it into a heat engine or rotate the vehicle? No, it is not possible. You need some external force to do that. Otherwise, you cannot do that. Okay. Otherwise, all motor vehicles or other machines will they can operate by their themselves. Okay. So this it is not possible. So this is what is the consequence of the or the observation of the Kelvin-Planck statement. Okay. And this was never discussed in first law of thermodynamics. First law of thermodynamics tells you that if you have heat, you can have an equivalent amount of work. Okay, but how much it is not discussed. Okay. So Kelvin-Planck's statement basically what it does that it rules out the possibility of perpetual machine. Okay, which can constantly draw the energy from the surrounding and operate or convert everything all the energy to a work, and it will go over and over. So this is basically this is a real life observation. Okay, and but that time when they developed this second law of thermodynamics by Kelvin and later on by Planck, they had to do many research whether they can do in fact in laboratory or in some theoretical concept also. Okay, but they, this is what their observation, and they rule out any perpetual motion of engine or a perpetual motion of second kind, because we are discussing in context to the efficiency. So this is where we are telling about a machine which is have a perpetual motion of second kind. Okay. Okay. So then let me go to another statement on second law of thermodynamics. Okay. So the Clausius also was working on this part. Okay. And he has also made some observation. Okay. So what was his observation? So suppose you have a heat engine. Okay. And it is drawing some heat from the reservoir at high temperature, and some smaller amount of heat is rejected to the reservoir at low temperature. Okay, so this is our usual concept of heat engine. Okay, and in that process what you are doing some work. Okay, so this is, let's say, in the left hand side I have what it is the conventional heat engine. Okay, so suppose this is my hot reservoir at which is at temperature T1, and with, let's say, amount Q1 amount of heat is absorbed by my heat engine or withdrawn by the heat engine, and Q2 amount of heat is rejected to the cold reservoir. Okay, and then whatever the amount of work will be, W will be Q1 minus Q2, and this is the state coming from the first law of thermodynamics, because the change in internal energy will be 0, the dU equal to 0, because you are working in a cyclic process. Okay, and this is we have already many times discussed or done. This is fine. So now think about in the reverse way. Okay, the way for Kelvin Planck statement, what we did, we think in a opposite direction, or in a negative way. We thought that is it possible to do this type of machine which can convert everything into work, and they found that you cannot do it. So that is what about Kelvin Planck statement. So it is impossible to construct that type of engine. Okay. The second, what Clausius gave a statement, that is, suppose you will have a heat engine which will work in a reverse way. Okay, how it will work in a reverse way? So I'll absorb or take some amount of heat from the cold reservoir, which is Q2 amount of heat. Okay, and then I'll reject some higher amount of heat to the hot reservoir, that let's say Q1. Okay, and can it be done? Is the reverse way also possible? And what the observation is that yes, you can do, but whatever you have to do, you have to do the work on the system. Okay, on the system by the surroundings. Okay, so this is what then you can work in a reverse way, and that will be refrigerator. Okay, right? So suppose your heater, okay, room heater, when you pass some electric energy through the coil, because of the resistance of the coil, they got heat, right? And you see there is heat is coming at a high temperature. You see a high temperature than the room temperature, and slowly you'll get you'll feel the heat inside the room. Okay, that is what our conventional heat engine. Okay, so that also you can do using your hydrocarbons like petrol or diesel, any engine, and then you can heat that. Okay, or let's say gas in your gas stove, you are just using butane gas, and you are burning them, and you getting heat. That is your conventional heat engine. But think about the reverse way. You supply some energy to do some work on the system, such that it will run in reverse direction. That means you will extract the cold temperature from one of the cold reservoir, and you will supply with higher temperature to the hot reservoir. Okay, that is what is done in refrigerator, right? So your, let's say what you are doing inside the refrigerator, your room temperature is 27 degree, right? But in the refrigerator, you have a temperature around 0 degree, or 0 degree centigrade, or 3 degree centigrade, whatever you temperature you set in your refrigerator. So how you are doing that? How you are getting lower temperature? The conventional flow of energy is always from hot to cold, right? Whenever you place a hot object in a room temperature or in a normal temperature, then it will get cold or become similar to that of room temperature. So the flow of natural flow of energy is always from high temperature to low temperature. But in refrigerator, what you are doing, your room temperature is at a high, but you are getting less temperature inside the refrigerator. How it is possible? So for that, what you have to do, you have to do some work, and that work should be done on the system by the surrounding. Okay, here your surrounding is nothing but whatever you have, all the system, you have coolant in your refrigerator, and you are supplying some energy, and that energy is your what? That is your electricity. Okay, using that electricity, what you are doing, you are some way you are expanding the pressure and changing the pressure in such way that there will be expansion and drop in temperature, and that temperature is basically transferred to the inner side of your refrigerator what you are using. So whatever the temperature at the beginning, let's say you just keep a refrigerator at room temperature and close the door. So at the beginning, room temperature will be at 27 degree. The refrigerator temperature will be also that 27 degree. But when you switch on your refrigerator, what it will do? It will work the reverse way to the heat engine. Okay, whatever the electricity or electric energy you are using that electric energy will work on the compressor where there will be expansion, or there are some other details how this refrigeration work. Okay, then during that thing, what it will do, when suppose there will be expansion or some let's say there is some gas which you are using as coolant, then what will happen? Then inside that coolant, if you do some expansion, then the temperature will drop. But inside the refrigerator at the beginning, it was exactly at room temperature. That room temperature, what it will happen, will pass to, let's say, will pass through the uh, uh, pass to the coolant, or there is some other mechanism through which it can suck the air from the refrigerator, and it will go to the coolant, which will take the temperature, and it will try to make it as cool as, because when you are withdrawing heat from the refrigerator, so it will slowly cool down. Okay, and that heat is basically utilizing is being absorbed by the coolant or whatever the gas or you are using in your refrigerator. Okay, then that will be further released after when that get heat, then your refrigerator will work in cycle uh, with, with the expense of electric energy, and whatever the heat you will get at the end, you see that will be rejected at the back side of your refrigerator. Okay, so that's why you feel little bit heat at the back side or side of your refrigerator. Okay, so that actually work in a reverse direction, but to do that you also need to supply some energy. Okay, you cannot do spontaneously, that you have to do by supplying some energy. So what happened, so suppose you consider this is a piston. Okay, this is, there is a cylinder fitted with a piston. When you heat that cylinder, then gas will expand, so piston will move upward. So when piston will move upward, then you will get some work for conventional heat energy. Okay, but here, okay, here what you have to do, if there is a cylinder having some gas and fitted with a frictionless piston, and if you want to make it cooler, okay, then what you have to do, you have to do the work on the system. Okay, by the surrounding. So suppose you will pull the piston by yourself. Okay, then the gas inside the uh, cylinder, that will expand, so temperature will drop down. Okay, so that is how you can also do. So here your heat, because of supply of heat from the hot reservoir, your piston was pulled upward because of the expansion of the gas. Okay, but here you are pulling the piston, let's say, think in that way, and making cooler inside that cylinder. So this is the only difference. Okay, here the cylinder will be pushed by the gas, but here you are pulling upward the cylinder by yourself. Okay, so this is how the direction of work you can say. Here the work is done by the system, but here your work is done on the system. So that's why I have a arrow mark inside here. Okay, here you are getting work from the heat engine, but here you are working on the heat engine. That is basically called a refrigerator. Okay, and on that observation, Clausius gave a statement that it is impossible to construct a refrigerator that operate in a cycle will produce no effect other than transfer of heat from a lower temperature reservoir to higher temperature reservoir. Okay, so what basically I discussed everything already. So you cannot make flow of heat from a cold reservoir to hot reservoir without doing work on the system. Okay, that is what it is saying. So if you just not do any work on the system, or this part you remove, then it is not possible to make the flow of the heat in a reverse direction, that is from the colder system to a hotter system. Okay, for that always you have to supply some energy to the system, or you have to do some work on the system. So this is what your Clausius statement is. Okay, so now during the development of this second law of thermodynamics, Okay, these are two major developments or observation done by first one is Kelvin Planck and later by in the same basically same time almost by Clausius. Okay, and now we can ask that whether they are this Kelvin Planck statement are same with respect to Clausius statement or they are different. Okay, are they have any link with themselves like the first law of Newton's first law and Newton's second law and Newton's third law? Are there any similarity or equivalence among them? So that is what I am going to next discuss. Okay, so to do that or to find out the equivalence of Kelvin Planck and Clausius statement, so let go in a method of falsification. Okay, let's adopt method of falsification. What that? Suppose let me tell that Kelvin Planck statement is false. Okay, if that is false, and by violating Kelvin Planck rule, can I do or can I make true the Clausius statement? Okay, so that I have to check. If it is that, then they are not same, right? If Kelvin Planck statement is, let's say, negative, okay, that means I can have a 100% efficient energy, efficient engine, but Clausius statement is correct. That means with that efficient energy, 100% efficient energy, I can withdraw a heat from a cold reservoir and can transfer that to hot reservoir. Is it possible? If that will work, that I am going to do. So if that will work, then they are not same. Okay. But if I want to make both are same, then what I'll do? That means if Kelvin Planck statement I make it false. Okay. Let's say the Kelvin Planck statement is false. Then at the end of my, let's say, third experiment or whatever the experiment, am I arriving that the Clausius statement is also violated? That's what I will do. Okay. Then the second thing, what I'll do I'll start to by making Clausius statement as false. Okay. So I'll say that no, Clausius statement is false. That means without doing any work on the system, I can transfer the heat or can make a refrigerator. Okay. Without doing any work on the system. If that is so, can I make a engine which satisfy Kelvin Planck statement? Okay, and Kelvin Planck statement, what it says? You don't need to reject any amount of heat to the cold reservoir. Everything you can convert into heat. Okay, so this is also what we are going to check. So basically, what I'll do, first one is I'll start with by violating Kelvin Planck statement, and I'll do some thought experiment or some theoretical work. Okay, and at the end I'll check whether Clausius statement is true or false. If it is false, then I will say that both Kelvin Planck and Clausius statement are same. Then that will be not sufficient for me. The sufficient will be the second step is that I'll start by violating Clausius statement, okay, and I'll do some theoretical work, okay, and I'll check whether in that process I am violating the Kelvin Planck statement or not. If I am violating, then also it implies that they are same, okay. That means, suppose let's just take another very simple analogy. Suppose two wire are connected with each other, okay, and there are some I want to check whether there is connection or not. Okay, so let's say in your home you have connection everywhere, electric wire connection, okay, and some wire is passing through two switchboard, okay, and if you want to check, let's say where the current is coming or not, okay, and then just to make sure, what you have to do, if you suppose there because of some problem, the wire somewhere has some fault, okay, current is not coming and it is passing through two switchboard. So what you can do, there are possibility that the wire when passing through the inside the wall, there can be a fault, or it is a fault at the switchboard, or it is at the fault from the main supply. So what you will do, if you want to check, you check at the first switchboard, you use your tester and check whether the current is coming or not. Then if the current is not coming, that means either that switchboard is bad, or there is something wrong with the wire. At the meantime, that wire is also going to or connecting another switchboard at your home, you know. Then if you go there and check by your let's say what uh, tester, okay,
Tester.
yeah, then if you check and you found that no current is coming, then what will you think? That your first switchboard is wrong, right? So let me draw if I can quickly, I can do that. Suppose here is your main supply, okay, and this is one switchboard, and there is another switchboard, okay, and when wire is coming through these two, okay. At the beginning, what you will do, you want to check where is the fault in the wire, or are they connected to each other till the end of this switchboard, okay. So what will go do, you will go here and check with the tester, and you found that here the current is not coming, okay. Then what will do, what happened, suppose it is current is not coming, so I made a cross here, okay. And then what I found, when I go to this switchboard and I check with the tester and you are getting current, that means what, the wire is okay, but this one is this switchboard is wrong, okay. Then the similar thing, let me tell you, this is a Kelvin Planck, okay, and let's say this is Clausius, okay. So when I found that Kelvin Planck is wrong but Clausius is correct, that means this whatever this thing Kelvin and Planck has said is not universal, or they are not same, okay. The problem is with Kelvin Planck statement, or they are not same, so everything is okay. But if you see at some point of time that when you checked that Kelvin Planck switchboard, let's say this is there is no current, and here is also no current, okay, when you checked, then that means what, both switchboard are either working or both switchboard are not working, if your main supply is okay. Or what can be the possibility, that there is no current in the main supply, or whatever it is, everything is same for your both the switchboard. So that you can say either this both the switchboard are okay. Suppose you know from your friend that there is main supply is okay, okay, but both the switchboard they are saying that no current, okay. Then what that means, either both the switchboard are some fault, have some fault, or your wire has some fault. Then what you will do in a thought experiment, let's say imagine my wire is also everything okay, my main supply is okay, wire is okay, okay. Then if I found that this Kelvin Planck switchboard is not giving any current, and Clausius is also not giving current, that means both the switchboard are identical type, they have some common design fault or common fault inside these two switchboard, or you can say they are same, okay, they are in same state, they are off state. So this is one of the thing, or what that is what I show you in the this direction, okay. So in another case also, what you can do, just to check that suppose you did some mistake, so you come from this direction, first you check this Clausius switchboard and you found that there is no current, and then you come to Kelvin Planck switchboard and says find out no current. Then that also that you can say that both the switchboard are in off state or they are same state, okay. Or in very layman language you can say they are either they have some common fault or common origin, okay, whatever you want to say. So this is how you can make a equivalence, okay. So if basically if you want to just concentrate on the state of this two switchboard, then if this is off, then also you find this is off, then both are in same state. And when you go this way, and when you find this is off, you find also this is off. That means also they are same state. So then you can also draw a equivalence of these two switchboard or whatever it is. Okay. So this is I'm just giving a very crude way of a example. Okay. I could have make more better example for you. So I think now in understand. So it is basically interconnection of two things. Okay. I am going to find out the equivalence. Okay. So this is what actually I am going to check in this two step. One is first I start with Kelvin-Planck, then we'll try to falsify the Clausius statement. In another step or another step, I'll falsify the Clausius statement, and I will arrive at if the falsification of Planck statement. This is what I am doing. So suppose K is the truth of Kelvin-Planck statement and C is the truth of Clausius statement. What I'll do, I'll donate minus K as the false of Kelvin statement and minus C as the false of Kelvin Clausius statement. Okay. So let check whether they are equivalent or not. So first I'll check with this one, falsification of Kelvin statement, and I'll try to arrive to falsify the Clausius statement. Okay. So let me do that. Okay. So this is what I'm saying. Okay. So minus K is equivalent to minus C or not. Okay. This is what it means actually. Okay. So I'll start with falsifying Kelvin statement, Kelvin-Planck statement. And at the end, if I'll try to see whether minus C is correct or not. Okay. So that is what I am doing. So let's start with a theoretical heat engine. Okay. In this left hand side, I have a hot reservoir where the system is not rejecting any heat. Okay. To the lower temperature and to the cold reservoir, but it is doing some work. And that work will be what? W will be Q1, right? So Q1 amount of heat is I am extracting from the hot reservoir, and my heat engine doing some work without rejecting any temperature heat to the cold reservoir. That means what? That is you are violating Kelvin-Planck statement. Kelvin-Planck statement what it said, that you cannot have any engine which can work in 100% efficiency, or you cannot only extract heat and convert into work without rejecting any heat. That is what it is. So there is no heat rejection to the cold reservoir. That is why it is a violation of Kelvin-Planck statement. I start with like this. Okay. Now, then what I'll do, whatever the work I am getting here from this heat engine, let I use this work, okay, for a refrigerator. Okay, and this work will be done on this system or this heat engine, which is basically a refrigerator, which will extract some Q2 amount of heat from the cold reservoir, and it will extract and it will reject some heat which will be equivalent to Q1 plus Q2 amount of heat to the hot reservoir. Okay, so this is what actually possible, right? According to Clausius statement, or according to our first law of thermodynamics, whatever we know, we can extract some amount of heat from the cold reservoir if we do some work on the system and reject some heat to the hot reservoir. And this is what it is, right? But what you see here, these two heat engine, let's say in my this experiment, both are working in same hot and cold reservoir. Okay, these two engines are interconnected basically to the or operating in between two reservoir. One is hot reservoir and the cold reservoir. The common thing is that both are working in this two reservoir. So I cannot say that this heat engine is working different and this way working different. No, they are working in the same system or within the same reservoir. Okay, but in the first heat engine, whatever it is absorbing the heat, it's converting into work without rejecting any heat, and that work I am using for the refrigerator to extract the heat from the cold reservoir to hot reservoir. Okay, so this is basically a composite engine, you can say. Okay, so if you think it is working in such way that Q1 amount of heat is extracted here and some Q1 amount of work is done, just violating the Kelvin-Planck statement, and that work you are using to extract some heat from the cold reservoir for the refrigerator and rejecting this one. So Q1 amount of whatever the Q1 of heat you got is actually in principle going in cycle and go back to the hot reservoir. So whatever the net amount of heat will remain is Q2, right? Whatever the heat Q1 you had observed will go round and round. So the Q1 amount of heat is nothing coming into picture into your heat engine. So if I reduce everything into a single engine, because both are working in the same hot reservoir and cold reservoir, so I can make this as a composite engine. Okay. So what I see, this Q1 amount of heat is going in cycle. There is nothing I am using as a Q1 amount of heat into some extra work. What I'll see, some Q2 amount of heat is absorbed from the cold reservoir, and I am working some refrigerator here, and again that same amount of heat is converting or going to the hot reservoir. So how can this be possible? That means whatever the heat you are absorbing here, you can transfer to this hot reservoir without working on this system. Okay, so this is not possible, right? At the beginning, if I want to do this, that is possible. But if I take everything as a composite engine, okay, then it is not possible, because Q2 amount of heat absorbed here and transport to the hot reservoir the same amount. But it is not possible, right? So that is basically a violation of Clausius statement. What is Clausius statement? Clausius statement was that you cannot do, or you cannot have a refrigerator which can extract heat from the cold reservoir to the hot reservoir without doing work on the system. Here, if you see as a composite engine, there is no extra work you are doing here. Whatever the work I have done already gone back. Okay, so no involvement mode, other heat or other amount of work here. So that's why it is violated. So I started by violating Kelvin-Planck statement, and later on when I see in this theoretical or thought experiment that Clausius statement is violated. That means one statement violation is leading to the another statement violation. So I can say that they are equivalent. Okay. So you cannot have a violating one statement, you can get correct as another statement. So they are interlinked. Okay. This is what regarding the first part. The second part was that if I start with violating Clausius statement, can I get that Kelvin-Planck statement will be violated? That I'll check. Okay. Suppose let's start violating the Clausius statement. What is Clausius statement? That when you have a refrigerator, you have to do some work on the system, right? So that your Q2 amount of heat will be absorbed from the cold reservoir, and it will transfer some heat to the hot reservoir. Let's say I am not doing any work here on the system. Whatever the heat I absorbed from the cold reservoir or the reservoir with the lower temperature, and I have a refrigerator working here which directly transfer that Q2 to the hot reservoir. Okay. So that means Clausius statement is violated. Okay. Then I'll bring another heat engine which is connected to this hot reservoir as well as cold reservoir as this refrigerator. Okay. This heat engine I'll bring here, and what I'll do, I'll extract some Q1 amount of heat. Okay. And then I'll do some work which will convert like this. W will be Q1 minus Q2 and reject Q2 amount of heat. Okay, to the cold reservoir. So this is basically okay if you look at in terms of first law of thermodynamics as well as in the Kelvin-Planck statement. Okay. So this, if you look alone this engine, okay, this part, then okay. But what I have done here, I have this heat engine working in the same hot reservoir and cold reservoir, in between these same hot reservoirs where the refrigerator is connected. So I cannot take them independent. They are working in cycle. Okay. Both are, that's why they are both are self-contained machine. They are not independent machine. That's why I can make a composite engine like this, where let's say here Q2 amount of heat has transferred to the hot reservoir and Q1 amount of heat was basically transferred, right? So the net amount of heat, whatever I am getting from the hot reservoir will be Q1 minus Q2, right? So at the beginning I had transferred the Q2 amount of heat to the hot reservoir. So the net heat or amount of heat will be Q1 minus Q2, which I am extracting from the hot reservoir, and this composite engine is converting them into work, and that work will be Q1 minus Q2. And there is no rejection of heat to the cold reservoir. How can that possible, right? If I take this as a composite engine, and as they are both working between same two reservoirs and same in the same cyclic manner in the same period, okay. If I look at them individually, then they are okay. I violated here Clausius statement, but I exactly same was as a Kelvin-Clark statement. What is it? But because they are working in the same reservoir, within two same reservoir, so they will become a composite engine. And just theoretically, if you say Q2 amount of heat at the beginning was passed, okay, to the hot reservoir, and you extracted Q1 amount of heat. So Q1 minus Q2 will be the amount of heat at the end what you are extracting from the hot reservoir by the composite engine, and that some amount of work you are doing. And what is the amount of work? W will be Q1 minus Q2, right? So this amount of heat, whatever is here, is same as here. So Q1 minus Q2 is also same as here. So this means what? You are saying whatever the amount of heat you have observed from the hot reservoir is exactly converting into work, which is not possible. Okay, 100% efficient engine is not possible, which is violating the Kelvin-Planck statement. Okay, so we started violating the Clausius statement, and at the end we reached the violating the Kelvin-Planck statement. That means they are same. Okay, what they are saying, or what two statement are implying, both are same. They have same consequence, whichever way you look at. Okay, either you go from Clausius point of view, then also second law of thermodynamics is okay, or the law of second law of thermodynamics holds good. Or if you come from the Kelvin-Planck statement, from there also you can arrive at Clausius statement, and second law of thermodynamics also holds good. Okay, so this is what actually or tells about the equivalence of two statement. Okay, so I think for today we are done. Friday I think is holiday, if I know correctly. So we'll not have a class on Friday, but I'll send you the complete workout of your internal questions. Okay, please go through them. I think very straightforward question those were. You can understand, and anything after that you have any doubt, please either write an email or send me a message, or in coming Tuesday class we can discuss. Okay.
Hello, sir. Excuse me.
Yes.
Sir, I have a small doubt. Will the
Yeah.
magnitude of heat engine can be equal to the magnitude of efficiency of refrigerator?
Magnitude of heat engine equal to
Efficiency of magnitude of heat engine will be equal to efficiency of magnitude of refrigerator.
yeah. So yes, why not? Suppose uh, if let's say whatever work, let's say W is, let's say, some magnitude take. Okay, Q1 minus Q2, actually you have to take actually magnitude like this. Okay, so whatever the work you are doing here, okay, to have a refrigerator, okay, then you will have some efficiency here, right? And this efficiency, if you go back to your heat engine, they can same, no problem. But they have to work in two different scenario. Okay, they should not interconnected. Okay, they should be in different. But if you want to use this amount of work, and this amount of work you want to put here for the refrigerator, then you cannot do that. That is not possible. There will be some loss. Their efficiency will be never same. Is that what you are asking?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, even in real case also, theoretically you can do. Okay, but real case you cannot do. Theoretically, if they are independent, then whatever the amount of work here you are getting, that work you can put here for the refrigerator to do the flow of heat in a reverse direction. That you can do theoretically, but they should be independent. There should be not be any connection between them. If there is any connection, then you will arrive at basically this part. Okay, so your efficiency will be not same. If they are independent, then theoretically possible. Theoretically, it is possible they can have efficiency eta 1, let's say, okay, eta 1 and let's say eta 2, both they can same, no problem. But in real life, that is not possible. And another condition, as I told you, if they are connected or they are connecting, they are working this heat engine and this refrigerator in the same reservoir, not possible. They will violate the second law of thermodynamics. It is not possible. So eta 1 and eta 2 will be never same. Okay, so I think for today we are done. Any?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so please, any doubt or anything, please ask me. So even if for today class I cannot answer, so any next class also I can answer you. Okay. So many times also I have to go through the text or book to understand many things. So whatever things comes into mind, please ask. Okay. I don't know. I don't know everything. Okay. I also read. I also learn. Okay. So there are many conceptual things we should learn. Okay. So anything, any doubt, whatever comes in mind, please ask. Okay. So we don't have enough time, so we'll stop here. Okay. So thanks for joining today, and uh, we'll talk next week. Okay. Bye, and talk to you next Wednesday.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
All of you too.